as you already saw from the previous presenters, one of the key elements of the entire initiative on this Regeneration 2030 and the Regenerative Society Foundation activities is the pledge. And the pledge is really the way by which we transfer the philosophy and the overall concepts from theory into practice. So it's really a fundamental part. We already saw, and we will repeat it again when we talk about the climate pledge, that we together commit to act as a regenerative force to systematically create conditions conducive to life, happiness, and well-being. This kind of theory is quite different from what we have seen in the mainstream economy in the last few decades, but actually, as we heard from the previous speakers, from multinationals to also spiritual leaders, from the princess to the Franciscan priest, we hear that we realize that it's really the time to transform, to completely redesign our economic systems. And putting life at the center of economic activity is really a revolution, but it's a revolution that actually brings us back to what used to be and what was in the previous millennia, probably. So historically, human activity has been driven by the future. In the past, our ancestors were always thinking, what are the consequences for future generations? What are the consequences for life? And the choices were made with this thinking in mind. And there were also sacrifices that were made in the short term in order to assure the continuation and the prosperity of life for the future and future generations. We may say that in the last decades, we had so much abundance, so much industrial economic growth that we forgot about this principle. And so when we state that economic activity should create conditions conducive to life, happiness, and well-being, actually we are recovering a fundamental driver, a fundamental principle, which is part of our instinct. And we may say that everyone here and all the people involved in this in these initiatives are driven by the future. It's as if there were voices from the future generations, people who are not yet born, and also living beings that are not yet here, that are not yet born, that are driving our action, but actually they are talking to our instinct to create this condition conducive to life. So to restate the structure of the pledge, we have happiness at the core. It's the why. Happiness and well-being is the driver, the motivation for all human activity. This is what we envision. And we have regeneration, regenerative action, which is actually the transmission belt between the why, between the motivation, between the vision, and what we do in practice. And in this session, we will explain how we can transfer this theory about regeneration into practice of the regeneration, and the what is the climate action. So all of these elements, all these components are strictly connected, are strictly interdependent. Actually, you don't see circles separated from one another, but you see that the circle, these realms, compenetrate with each other. So I will pass the word to Paolo di Cesare, and we'll get into the details about the Regenerative Action Pledge. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. My objective now is to actually go a little bit in detail in the pledge. This morning, Paul Polman said the train has left and is going from A to B, where A and B are not just dots or destination or geographical points, they are actually completely different cultures. So this is what we are now going from an economic system that actually reached its end to a system that works for all. We are going from an extractive and linear paradigm to regenerative and circular paradigm. We are going from shareholder primacy to stakeholder capitalism. We are going from industrial growth to life-sustaining civilization. So as you can see from just these keywords, we are going from an old culture to a brand new one, completely new one. So I'm going to read the pledge that is actually that all of you are required, are invited to sign. So we pledge to implement a comprehensive measurement of our organization's social environmental value with the same robustness adopted for financial results. We pledge to explore new governance models in order to include stakeholders' consideration in economic decisions. And those are the foundation to achieve a shared and durable prosperity for humanity, regenerating our home planet and creating beauty. For this reason, we commit to enter a path of individual awareness and competence development, explore and ultimately adopt stakeholder-driven governance structures, such as benefit corporation or equivalent, and we also commit to measure the organizational regeneration and purpose baseline of our organization with robust standards, such as B impact assessment, and also we commit to measure the organizational UN SDG 2030 baseline with comprehensive framework such as the SDG Action Manager. So I strongly invite all of you to go to this website and actually read it with care, but also with optimism, wisdom, and also courage. You can find all the details about the pledge that you are invited to sign.